The Human Rights Commission of Sierra Leone and partners will be organizing a two-day national conference on human rights and climate change from the 28th to the 29th of October 2025 at the Bank Complex, Kingstown in Freetown. There is no gain saying that the impact of climate change are already visible in Sierra Leone, ranging from rising sea levels, erratic rainfalls pattern, floods, and then lacks to coastal erosion, a phenomenon that disproportionately affects the most vulnerable populations in Sierra Leone. Climate change is one of the greatest challenges of our time, with far-reaching consequences of the environment, the economy, above all, the enjoyment of fundamental human rights. These challenges threaten not only livelihoods and food security, but also rights to health, housing, water, education, and sustainable development. So this morning, to discuss the conference, Human Rights and the Fight Against Climate Change in Sierra Leone, we have Victor Elisa Lantner. He's a Vice Chairperson of the Human Rights Commission of Sierra Leone, and Oswald Ansins, environmental and climate change activist. Gentlemen, good morning and welcome to Wake Up Sierra Leone.
Good morning.
Yes.
Good morning.
Viewers and listeners.
Good morning.
It's a pleasure always.
Yes, you're always welcome, sir. Having a vice, a chairman of human rights is very important.
No, I mean, it's nothing, man. It's nothing.
Yeah, I know.
We are all trying to work, for the good of our nation, for our people.
Yes,
I'm happy to have my elder brother here.
I know.
He's been in this game for a very long time.
Yes, man who's been standing, for the awareness of climate change in Sierra Leone. So how it has been, this in the field, before we come to talk about the all-important conference. It's been a while we hosted you here.
Yes.
And I know you have been out of Sierra Leone, in international conferences, discussing issues around human rights, as well. So how is this?
I mean, sometimes when we are within our country, we think really we are not doing much until you compare notes, with other countries or institutions of other countries. So the experience I've had is that we are really trying so much, but of course, as a country, we've been like in a very deep hole for a very long time, considering our history, whether it's about slavery, colonialism, one-party states, civil war, Ebola you mentioned earlier on, Corona of recent years. So all of these issues, have actually retrogressed our nation. And so even when you do something, it appears as if you really have not done anything. So it's like a basket which can never be filled. Mm-hmm. But I'm certain that with persistence and collaboration, we'll be able to actually achieve something. And this is not for us. I mean, we are now a spent force, our generation. Mm. We are really fighting now for our children, our children's children, those yet unborn. Mm. And that is why, in fact, the fight against the impact of climate change is very important, because we don't want to bequeath our nation to those who really did not do anything, did not contribute anything to the current state. I mean, those who are yet unborn. Yeah. Those are kids, 1 year old, 2 years old, 5 years old. They have not done anything. They don't even know about climate change. But we, the adults, the elders, we, the business entities, we are the ones actually, committing or, going against nature. It's because we are going against nature, that is why we have the effects of climate change all over. And it's real. People have to understand that this is very, very real. It's with us. We have experienced it. And Sierra Leone has been identified as one of the most vulnerable countries on earth in terms of climate change. And so we have an obligation as a people, as a state, as individuals, to make sure that we are climate savvy, making sure that the things that we do do not affect the environment. And at the end of the day, it's really about collaboration, making sure that people understand also the impact of climate change, what it will actually cause you as an individual, as a community, and as a nation. So once we have that awareness, then we believe that that is the beginning of making sure that we address the issues. And it's very serious. You'll see, going through, for me, going through my engagements locally and internationally, I've seen how climate change is plaguing, other nations. And we, as a state, Sierra Leone, we have been there, we have seen it all. We are having erratic rainfalls. We also are experiencing hot weather. Look at the blue economy; it's also very challenging. So all of these issues are real-time issues, and they are developing. They are affecting our development. Climate change affects the third generation of rights, development rights, and that is why we have to take it very, very seriously to make sure that this is no longer about nipping it to the bud, but making sure that we are able to mitigate the impact and adapt to the impact of climate change generally. So it's a clear on call. We as a commission, we are coming on board to make sure that we get government to understand what it actually means, to fight against climate change. That is why in 2023 we established a full-blown directorate that we call Directorate of Climate Change and Information Services, which is basically responsible to make sure that it intervenes in the area of climate change, collaborates with other institutions, national and international, and making sure that it's also engages communities, to understand what climate change is all about. We have done several engagements across the country. We even have a report that we have to launch. Very soon going to the conference for which I'm here. But generally, this is what we have been doing, making sure that we get people to understand, government also to understand that this is not just about scientific. The effort should not just be limited to scientific efforts, but they must approach the fight against climate change with a human rights-based approach, the human rights lens. And very soon, we explain what the human rights-based approach is all about in the fight against climate change. And that is the only way we believe that climate change can be actually adequately addressed going forward.
Before Mattia comes in, we are a second most vulnerable country in climate change, and I think sometimes back we fight hard as a nation, and we're able to progress a bit, and there are a bit improvement, and we third most vulnerable country in terms of climate change, and it's affected. Many people will say it's a scary situation we are in. It's affected our livelihoods, and what we do, because if heavy rain, fall on a particular day, it will even affect the economy because people cannot move, to go and do their normal business. But how can we relate climate change and human rights into this as well?
That's the perfect question. It's a perfect question. I remember when I was attending the first climate summit in Kenya. I met with one government officer, very senior officer, was asking me, "What is the business of human rights in climate change?" So you see that the capacity is really very lacking, and we are trying so much to make people understand, government officials understand, that there is a clear nexus or link between climate change and human rights. So basically, first of all, let's lay the foundation. Climate change, as you did a very brilliant intro, is basically about the erratic weather condition that we face. Whether it's about high-level sea rise, or whether it's about the weather condition itself, which is not consistent. We know from our primary school days, we have how many seasons? 3 seasons. Okay, rainy season, dry season, and then there is the harmattan season that comes later in December and January. Today, when we have the dry season, it's really hotter than it was before. And even with the rainy season, it's either the rains come so heavy, or they come very late. As what the scientists had actually identified. They will come very late, and sometimes when they come, they are very heavy and destructive. And then also sometimes we don't even get the amount of rainfall that we get is very, very small for us to be able to do our agriculture and so on and so forth. So the impact of that, all of that, affects the right to life. I'll give you a classical example. We know about 2017, 2015, the Motorme incident. What we do as human beings. So we have to understand also that what exacerbates the climate change, what provokes it, is one, the human activities. We see people going to the hills, going even crossing the green belts, going to the red zones to build structures there and stay. Establish settlements where they should not establish settlements. And once that happens, you are offending nature. And when nature gets choked up, that is how you see the outburst. So that was what we got at Motorme in 2017. We saw 1,000 more lives were lost, and we have not been able to recover from that since. Because when that happened, what we have been calling for instance, is climate justice. Okay, once that happens, government has the responsibility to make sure that it actually settles, brings in justice, equality to those people who were affected. But we know that, it was a kind of a makeshift arrangement. Many of those who were affected were not properly, attended to, whether it's about on the issue of accommodation or making sure that they get back what they lost. It was never the case. And as a matter of fact, making government seeing those settlements, those illegal settlements, and paying a blind eye to it, all of that actually also exacerbates the issue of climate change. And several other things we've seen over the years, how the rains have destroyed our cities. We've seen also how multinational companies, the activities of multinational companies have destroyed our cities, and that destruction affects, for instance, the right to clean drinking water. It affects the right to education. So, for instance, if you go to our eastern region area in Kono, you'll see when many companies are doing their blast or their activities. Sometimes when the rains come, the rains will actually make like a blockade. It will cause a blockade, and children are not able to go to school. So if it's in the rainy season, they have to wait until the rains actually dry up, and that tells you that they are missing out on their education. So it affects the right to education and several other rights, not just the right to life, not just the right to education. I've talked about the right to clean drinking water. All of these are very germane, and for us they are very serious, and that is why we are saying that the government must approach this whole thing with human rights-based approach, making sure that the people are at the center. The people are at the center in terms of their adaptation mechanisms, their mitigation approaches, the laws that they pass. All of them have to be people-centered, so that at the end of the day, we get people to understand that even if it happens, nature actually may take place. Nature may be sometimes unpleasant, but then there must be an assurance that if it happens, there is a government that we have which is responsible to make sure that it protects, fulfills, and respects human rights. That is a very powerful international state obligation for every government to protect the right to protect individuals or citizens, the right to respect human rights, and the right to fulfill human rights. Fulfilling human rights means making sure that the enabling environment, providing the necessary things for people to be able to actually enjoy human rights. Protecting human rights means making sure that you put laws, you pass laws that we guarantee the enjoyment of human rights, making sure that you pass laws or policies that will actually promote human rights, and then making sure also to respect human rights, non-interference. When there are matters around human rights, you have to make sure that you, as a government, you don't interfere into the issues or try to have a negative influence. So all of these are the human rights-based approach that we want government to understand, that it is very pivotal, it is central to winning the fight against the impact of climate change. And so in that conference, we have to get government to understand that this is the way to go if at all we have to succeed in the fight against the impact of climate change.
All right, let me bring in Mr. Ansels as an environmental and climate activist. Well, firstly, from your work, what human rights violations do you see directly emerging from climate change and its impact in Sierra Leone? And if we are talking on those human rights, who should we hold the most accountable? Should we hold government accountable? Should we hold corporate bodies accountable? Or international actors when you look at how Sierra Leone is vulnerable to climate change?
A couple of months ago, one of my civil society activist colleagues, going back 25 years, Ajiba, invited me to some climate change conference somewhere at Aberdeen, sponsored by the British Irish government and Action Aid. They were all there, all the NGO types. And one of the speakers said that climate change is war. That's a regular wording of mine. Climate change is war. So I picked that one up and I said, climate change is indeed war. And in a war, there must be enemies and there must be friends. But in the climate change war, the enemies are not like the war in Gaza or the war in Ukraine versus Russia. They don't wear uniforms, they don't drop bombs. The enemies for us in a country like Sierra Leone, the main enemies are the people in the West. Western Europe mainly, United States, North America, and also China and India. They are the ones who have put over the past 200 years since the advent of the Industrial Revolution, noxious gases, mainly carbon dioxide, into the atmosphere, getting the whole atmosphere to heat up disproportionately. I started environmentalism almost 45 years ago. And in those days, we were not calling it climate change. We used to call it global warming, because it was just gaining greater recognition then. Now, and I said that who are the enemies? The enemies are the people in the West. But locally, the President of the Republic of Sierra Leone, retired Brigadier Mada Bio, is the enemy. And that includes his whole cabinet. The Parliament of Sierra Leone, they are the enemies of the people. Because they are not speaking climate change the way it should be spoken. They are not giving it the right intensity. When I hear these government people talking about climate change, what gets into my mind, all they want to do, go to some international conference, get foreign currency as allowance, come back and tell us, well, photo opportunities. Look at me, I'm standing with King Charles. Look at me, I'm with Joe Biden in the White House. I spoke with him about climate change. Go to the United Nations. But that is far from being adequate. Very, very far from being adequate. Like I said, I started environmentalism over 40 years ago. I'm the brain of my own organization in Liberia, in Nigeria. I got international contracts way, way back in the 80s. That was before the first conference of parties of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. That was before, which was 1995. I already started environmentalism and lobbying. Now, between the time we had what they call COP, the acronym is COP, COP 1, to COP 29, we're going to have COP 30 in Brazil in November. Between that time and now, the principal purpose of the COPs to limit global carbon emissions into the atmosphere has not been met. In fact, there has been 60% more carbon emissions into the atmosphere. But yet, our government this government, over the past 7 years, has been attending one climate change conference after the other. And they've not done much about it. March 24, 2025, this year, I met with the First Lady, Mrs. Fatima Biu, to present to her my idea of a slave ship, literal and metaphorical, that will travel to Brazil for COP30. I met her. I was taken there by the National Security Advisor, retired Brigadier General Kelly Conte. And I presented this my idea. Look, we need to be imaginative in how we approach climate change issue. You go to COP, you just watch the COP conferences. 98% of the time when African leaders, presidents are speaking, they all will be empty. They'll simply leave the halls. They don't listen to us. What African presidents say is not mentioned in their media. One of the most articulate, resonant speaker at COP was the Prime Minister of Barbados, Mayor Motley, speaking so powerful, almost like the female version of Martin Luther King or Barack Obama. And she was hardly mentioned in the Western media. Now, we need to do more, but our president, our ministers, they don't seem to understand all their talking, all their going to conferences is not working.
So how do we strike this balance? Having mentioned that we are our own enemy. Foreign investors or partners in the fight against climate change are our own enemy. We aren't doing much for people in general. How do we strike the balance between awareness and seeking actual justice when it comes to what people are feeling? Because as we've stated over the time, it's now becoming a cliche. Sierra Leone is behind Bangladesh when it comes to climate change. We are one of the most or worst affected countries. If disaster will strike, we keep seeing it's a song. But how do we move away from awareness to start holding people accountable for what they do? We can't hold America accountable. We can't hold China accountable for emission. They are bigger than us. They are greater than us. Even when it comes to pulling out resources for climate change, they pull it better and most than us. How do we fight as a small nation? We are feeling the brunt of climate change. When we cry of sea levels rising, we will feel it. We are closer to the coast. But how do we find justice where awareness has failed?
What's your name, sir?
Bokari Matia.
Bokari
Matia.
Matia. Bokari Matia, one of the first things that needs to be done is to sue you in court for not giving those who are speaking about climate change with passion, like Oswald Hansels, not giving us enough airtime. You keep on giving airtime to the bureaucrats who do not have passion for the job. For them, climate change is just a job. Mm-hmm. When was the last time I was here? 1 year, 2 years ago? Only my good friend will call me here.
But Mr. Hansi, one would say activism hasn't solved the issue.
No.
Where do we move from activism?
No, it's the only way, and it has to be through frequency, repetition. Mm-hmm. It's not one time I come here, one time in a year I come out and speak and people understand what I'm saying. The reality is that the First Lady, I met her, I'm very annoyed with her, and she mounted my words, which I had put in an article which I published. Said climate change is the intensification of mass murder. That's very English. What does it mean? Put it down in simple English. Intensification. They killed you, 10,000 of you yesterday. Now they're going to kill 5 million of you. And they're going to do it all the time. Climate change is not a joke. They're killing us. They killed us yesterday. The Atlantic slave trade, the European conquest of the Americas, European colonization of Africa and the whole southern hemisphere. They killed us yesterday, and they're doing it now. The whole global economic system is rigged against us in Africa. It's not talking about climate change as if it's something new. It's nothing new.
So how should we hold them accountable? What do we need to do to hold them accountable?
What we need is to disabuse yourself of what you just said. We are too small. We are weak. We're impotent. No, we are not weak. We are not impotent. What we need to do is to get the most imaginative of people to go out and inspire the youth and children. You are sitting down there, children. You say you're going to school, you're going to university, you're sitting down here, your president is collaborating, it's been lukewarm with those who are murdering you, and they're going to make it worse. What are you studying for? All your studying is going to be useless if we don't approach climate change with intensity. And the whole issue of these people being too big, too invincible, too invulnerable, that's a lie. There's a historical lie about it. That's what Mahatma Gandhi, you know, the British Empire, the sun never sets in the British Empire. They control about over a quarter of the globe, and they are so powerful, invincible. Mahatma Gandhi broke them, brought them down, and freed India. Martin Luther King, most people don't even understand what the Atlantic slave trade was, what slavery in the Americas was. It was horrible, it was horrific. They didn't see African slaves as human beings. Mm-hmm. And that continued. Slavery ended in the United States about 1865 or so. But from 1865 to the 1860, the Jim Crow era, they used to treat blacks in the United States less than human beings.
Yes.
So,
again, Mr. Hansis, how do we fight the enemy?
The enemy has to be fought through you and all the bloggers and all the radio stations to make people aware. Rise up. This is not SLPP versus APC matter. SLPP, APC was there, and we had the mudslide disaster. 1,000 people plus were buried in mud, and that is not exactly climate change. That's another mistake. We seem to be conflating climate change with environmental degradation. They are intertwined, but they're not exactly the same. Environmental degradation in Sierra Leone has been caused through centuries of shifting cultivation, slash and burn. We have not trained our farmers how to do multi-cropping. We just go cut the forest down, we grow cassava, we grow rice, and that is not good for our tropical rainforest. That has caused severe soil erosion, soil sterility. Now we have destroyed our forest in the provinces. And too many people, I don't say many people, have moved from the provinces. They've come to Freetown, and they are repeating, or rather worsening, what they've done in the provinces, destroying the environment, causing soil erosion. And Freetown, mountainous region, is one of the worst areas for you to have environmental degradation. What are the elites? Successive governments of APC and SLPP. Kanda Yomkelas, Alusain and Alusain. Alusain and Alassane, same people. They go up the mountains, cut the forest down, construct their mansions, they expose the soil, the poor people go there, squat, destroy the environment, destroy the tropical rainforest. When the soil is exposed, when the heavy rainfall of this region comes, it just washes away our topsoil. That's what caused the mudslide in 2017. And what about Parliament? What has Parliament, successive Parliament, not this Parliament alone, what have they done about this problem? which they've been crying about. When you cut the forest down up in the mountains of Freetown, you destroy the water catchment areas. There is not adequate water again for the reservoirs, not only for the Guma Water Valley Company. Most people don't get water through Guma Valley Water Company. Anyway, they get water coming down through the crevices on all over at the valley down from the mountains. Now, when you cut the forest down, there is not enough water flowing down through to the soils and coming down for the people. So you starve the people of water.
And that is also very important. I'll come back to Mr. Ansons. Let me bring in the Vice Chairman for Human Rights. The conference will be held next week, the 20th and 29th. Mr. Ansons was talking about the activities we're doing in our forest, and some will say the human activities also involved into that, us not achieving in the fight against climate change. But what impact is this conference going to create on the fight against climate change in terms of awareness? And initially you spoke about what government need to know about the fight against climate change. The other authorities, collaboration is also very important into that. What impacts the conference is going to create on us, Sierra Leone?
Yes, so much impact. But as a foundation first, just to piggyback on what you've said, the climate change conference, it's going to be the very first national climate change and human rights conference. It's going to take place at Bank Complex in Kintom on the 28th and 29th, and we are encouraging all of our potential participants, ministries, departments and agencies, CSOs, those who have sent invites to be in attendance, because we believe that such a gathering will give an opportunity to everybody to be able to express their own opinions, their views, share experiences, and we map the way forward as to how do we go. So the particular influence that this conference would actually produce is getting government to approach the fight against climate change with a human rights perspective. So that is why, as a matter of fact, the theme for the conference is integrating the human rights-based approach in climate mitigation and adaptation measures and programs. So we believe that at the end of the 2-day program, government would have understood clearly what the human rights-based approach is all about and how to go about it, how they could inculcate it or incorporate it into their programs, whether it's about laws, whether it's about their day-to-day activities, that they embark on. And it will also show how it is important for entities to collaborate, because no one individual or no one entity, has all the capacity to be able to do this. We from scanning, we have seen that there is so much capacity gap that exists within MDAs and with individuals, and so we believe that collaboration will go a long way in making sure that we have the necessary or the relevant capacity to be able to handle climate change. Just to quickly talk about what one of the issues that my brother was talking about, my elder brother, when you ask the question, what do we need to do? That is very important. Mr. Ansons was saying we have the enemies, and the enemies are the governments. The enemies are our big companies, big nations, our slave masters, if you like. What needs to be done, I agree with him on the issue of continuous advocacy. Climate change is still emerging. It's still an emerging area in our country. Not too many people believe in it, or not too many people even understand what it's all about. We have gone to the regions. We have gone to vulnerable communities. When you engage them and get them to understand what climate change is about, they have their own views. They even attribute these changes in our climate, in our environment, to their traditional beliefs, and they believe that if the rain strikes, and we have too much downpour of rain and destroying. They believe that it's what the gods have said. We experience that. They explain that to us. That is what they believe. So that such perception tells you that you need consistent and persistent education, public education, awareness raising, for people to understand that no, this is not about what the oracles think or what the gods think. This is really about what we do, our human activities. So human activities, constitutes one of the main reasons or one of the impetus of climate change. But of course, also the bigger one is the work of multinational companies. Sierra Leone as a country, you almost say we have contributed zilch, into the impact of climate change. We have multinational companies who really are the bigger emitters, and the bigger emitters should be held responsible. So that is why we have COP, Conference of State Parties, where the world will meet and discuss and agree on ways to be able to curb climate change, and agree on how those bigger emitters, what they are supposed to do to make sure that they decrease on their input into the climate cause itself.
How will the commission ensure that the voices of the most affected people, like the slum dwellers, the farmers, or people around fishing communities, be represented in this discussion, this conference? Are they going to be present, those who are really affected?
Yes, so the conference will take this form. We have the preliminaries where we expect states, actors, governments, and other people, CSOs, to make statements, make commitments, as to their own rules in terms of the impact or the fight against climate change. And of course, it's a war. So they make those statements, and then we then now have to split into panel discussions. So those panel discussions, we are going to feature community people. I told you we had gone across the country talking to community people. So we are going to use up the opportunity of that conference to even launch the report that we have prepared from those engagements with the community people, with the vulnerable communities. So they themselves will have to be represented in one of those panel discussions. We have a whole panel talking about what we call right holders, who really are the ones feeling the brunt, who are the ones that at the end of the day, when these impacts are taking place, they suffer the most. So we are going to get them to also share their experiences and suggest ways in how to get government to intervene into curbing or protecting their rights. Mm-hmm. So, and then we also have a panel for government institutions. They will come, whether it's EPA, the Meteorological Department, the Climate Change Department itself, or Ministry itself. So there will be a panel on that, and they will discuss generally the rules of government, rules and responsibilities of government in making sure that we address the issue of climate change.
And so what are outcomes? You're involving government officials to make commitment. You're also engaging vulnerable communities to also not only share their stories, to also profile solutions on how their problems should be curbed. But at the end of the day, the report will be out. What are you hoping should be the impact or the public to expect from this 2-day conference after everything would have been rounded up?
So like I've said, once you get people to share the experiences and get government to make commitments, then you have a blueprint. You have a report where you will now use that report to engage government and other partners, CSOs, international partners, to see how we can collaborate to make sure that those recommendations that maybe would feature in the report, are actually implemented, because it's going to be a kind of progressive implementation of recommendations. So that is going to be a very serious impact, because at the end of the day, as far as we have documented, the commitment of government, commitment of CSOs, commitment of vulnerable groups, you are able to have a clear blueprint and the way forward. So you are going to be able to take the next steps by making engagements, and that engagement will be guided by the report. But then the question also that you had asked initially to Mr. Ansis is really, how do we make sure that we are able to fight against the impact of climate change, or even on vulnerable communities. Climate litigation, climate action, mostly we have said that climate justice is the way to go. Making sure that we hold those duty bearers accountable for whether it's about their negligence in taking action. Now, we agree on the issue of environmental degradation and climate change having a clear nexus. What we see in the mountainous areas, we see people staying or living in those communities. Who are those that are giving them or selling those portions of land to them, pieces of land to them? We know that there are people who do that. We know that there are people, there is an institution, the Ministry of Lands, for instance, that prepares, or that registers, I should say, that registers title deeds, conveyances, as the case may be. And we see that on a daily basis. It's already a time bomb that when that environment strikes, there will be danger. We'll lose a lot of people. And we see people even going to those catchment areas, water catchment areas, building houses there, even cutting down pipes. All of these we see on a daily basis. They are unfolding right in our eyes. So what are we doing? Government has an obligation, a state obligation. So we must be able to make sure that we hold them accountable in that direction. But then on the issue of China, America being bigger emitters, of this whole issue of carbon dioxide, climate change, we believe that, first of all, let us start from within. We have to be able to settle our house within. Those things that we are doing ourselves, as individuals, as the government, we are not able to address them yet. So it's difficult to be able now to get China to account for their emissions into Sierra Leone. Let us do, first of all, those things. Let's pick the low-hanging fruits. Once we pick low-hanging fruits, we know we have gone a long way in addressing the impact of climate change. And then we now go after, that is why we have the Conference of State Parties, where every nation is there, and we are having accountability measures to make sure that we hold them accountable for their own contribution. Sierra Leone is really, contributing so much, very little, very, very little, not even significant amount into the whole mix. But then we can, as the country, first of all, try to make sure that the things we can do, conveniently do, let us do them. And we can now go to the international stage and hold accountable those powerful states that are the bigger emitters. But our call is to make sure that at the end of the day, let the people be at the center. If there is a disaster, let's say, for instance, are we providing livelihood support, alternative livelihood? We are saying stop cutting charcoal, or stop cutting down trees. Move on to smart stoves, for instance. But we know our people in the communities are very, very poor. How many of them can really afford to buy smart stoves? Very little. So, but then what you should do as a nation or as a government is to provide alternative livelihood mechanisms. Don't cut trees. What is there for me to do? Because that woman who has been cutting down, I'm not saying that people should cut down trees, though. You cut the plants. But that woman who has been really using coal to support the child. Many of us are coming from the villages. We know, since the 80s or so, our parents depended on that, on the burning of charcoal, sell charcoal, and then pay our school fees. So now if you are saying, stop doing that, you must be able to provide me an alternative livelihood mechanism that I should use to take care of my family. Otherwise, the advocacy or the mere statement or the warning, it will not actually yield any fruit. Because it means that you are saying that I should just leave my livelihood and then sit down and fold my hands and starve of hunger. So our approach is, as a commission, we are getting government to make sure that they provide alternative livelihood mechanism so that when people leave what they are doing, they should have something else to fall on, okay, to be able to take care of themselves and their families. So it's very important that we try to pick the low-hanging fruits in addressing the issues of climate change. And then we can go now to the bigger level, the international level, to hold accountable those bigger emitters.
Yeah. Yes, I'm coming to it because
I challenge my junior brother here to a debate, and I hope we're going to get university students and students there, and some of the governmental
We'll get to
type.
that.
I know initially
We'll get to
you
that.
spoke about government and the authorities are not taking the fight against climate change serious, But I remember sometimes back, the president was at Guma Valley when they were encroachers and all the catchment areas were dried up. I caught a report which was out by WashNet, 90% of the catchment areas are all dried up. And the president was in Guma and he pronounced that they should demolish all houses that have been built there, and government should ensure set up a committee to look into all of that, and even the Takugama also they have been
He has
concerned.
not done that.
Is it the implementation we have in problem?
No, the president, I always call him when I'm writing my articles, my Burnt brother. We both hail from Burnt. He has failed woefully in his approach to environmentalism. I've accused him several times. He is culpable of environmental genocide because of the way he has allowed during his 7 years commercial logging of the few areas where we have pristine tropical rainforests. That is unpardonable. Then what you just saying, when you said it before, 2024, when his information minister had a town hall meeting, he said, all those who are building above the Green Line in Freetown, I'm going to take action on them. He failed to do that. 1 year has passed. I'm not aware. You don't take action in secret. When Bobson Sisse, environment minister, housing minister in the SFP government of Tijan Kaba, when he was breaking down the houses, he was not doing it in secret. Everybody could see, yes, he has broken these houses. And he earned the sobriquet Bobson Brokos.
But a few times back at Takugama, we saw the military officers and the police. They were there with caterpillars, breaking
have
down
not done
as well.
enough in proportion to the challenges. That is the point. Now, let me put it.
Propose should be the radical move.
Yeah.
Now we've identified the problem. Government, our parliament, even the laws we have are not being implemented. So where do we go from here? What should be the pragmatic step to ensure that we combat climate change?
There's no that when you use the word pragmatic step, it's conceding to collective suicide. There's no pragmatism. There's only need for radicalism.
So what should we do? How radical should we be?
First, we have to awaken the conscience of the elite and awaken the fire in the ordinary people, the youth and children. They are killing you. And this question about what can we do, oh, America is so great, America is so mighty. No, America is not so great and so mighty. America is not fighting a war against Iraq or against Vietnam. No, America is fighting a war against itself. And what we have to do, like the idea which I took to the First Lady, and it has not gained traction. Please, is there a lawyer out there, human rights lawyer? You can find one for me so I can develop a case against the First Lady and the President, and I'm serious about that, so that we can check them up. This is war against Africa, 600 years war. And you're not taking action? It's just like when the problem in apartheid South Africa had been identified. It was quite obvious. Oh, for 400 years, the whites subjugated, massacred the blacks in South Africa. And by the early 20th century, the ANC was founded. And then people said, let's fight. And then you say you are black, you are ANC, you are leader, you are not fighting? No, the president, the parliament, they are not fighting with intensity. They're going to international conferences to enjoy themselves. Can you get me a lawyer so we can sue them? And it's best now that he's chairperson of ECOWAS.
But but we have the institutions that the president have actually created, and they have the responsibility to fight against climate change. Why not holding the institutions accountable, failing to provide?
The buck stops on the decks of the president. The buck stops with the president. All those others are taking refuge under the banner of the president. They're all not taking action. They're waiting for the president to take action. I worked in government at senior level, at State House, as advisor to former President Ernest Bai Koroma. I know what happens. And for that matter, it's not only this president we should sue, we should also sue the APC government of Ernest Bai Koroma for not taking timely action leading to the August 2017 mudslide. They are all culpable. I will not say guilty. We have to put them on court before we charge them to be guilty. But we need to take radical action. Not be talking softly. No, it's not hypothetical. People are starving right now.
Do not have the people themselves committed not to, moving the green belt, like we said, like what the vice chairman, was talking about, bringing the community people on board for them to understand is their responsibility to protect the environment.
That's where you come in.
Protect the community.
No, that's where you come in. Just about a month or so ago, I wrote something on social media that said we should make the whole country green. There should be planting of creepers and climbers and vegetables and fruits everywhere, in every household. I've been saying that for over 20 years. No, but the media does not amplify that. The media...
When people are planting the trees you are talking about, when people cut tree, they suppose when you cut one, you plant two. That was a slogan. And we're not seeing that.
No. The media is also capable. I don't say you are culpable. You're guilty as hell, because you kowtow to those who have power. When ABC ministers have power, you kowtow to them. You don't get everybody else to speak. Now the issue.
So good we have you here. So good we have you here to talk.
I should be everywhere.
You've identified the problem in detail. You've even suggested taking legal actions against previous government and present government. Rightly so. Yeah. But it boils down to the question again. Yeah. One, will this solve the problem?
Oh yes, it must.
If we take President Julius Maada Bio and former President Ernest Bai Koroma to court, what will it solve? Will that cease people from building around the green belt?
What is happening, in case you have not noticed, the frequent fly of the president, I go fly, bet. That is Mike Bear endorsing what the president is doing. Is to build up his international image. The president, I wrote an article a couple of months ago that the president is guilty of ecological genocide and environmental climate change hypocrisy. Here is the president going to climate change conferences all the time, talking about all the diversity of genetic materials that we have in Freetown. He's saying that. He went to climate change conferences all over the world and saying that. But he's doing almost nothing to prevent the about 5% of rare genetic materials we have. Why should the president be allowing commercial logging that is going on to the forest reservation areas in Kabbalah, in Pujong, in Kailau? That is sheer hypocrisy. Somebody needs to call him out. And who best to do it than his own burnt brother, Oswald Hensels? He should be sued in court. And all this question about afforestation.
You're talking about logging, and I remember, sometimes back, there was a press release from State House, which they stopped all logging, and, to to prevent us from that. So is that not a good step?
No, it's not. It's
that?
action too late. Look, have you ever gone up province? You take from Makeni, you go down to Tonkololi, and you go down to Falabako in Adugu. Look, when you see the trucks coming down with 16 trailer trucks with timber, logs which they've cut from our tropical rainforest, if you have any ecological sense, you go to State House and take firm action.
So are you ready to go to State House to take a farm action?
Oh, I have been going there. I need a lawyer.
So someone will also
don't
blame
listen.
you. Someone will also blame you because you were there at State House working with the former president and his bike. You should have brought all of these ideas.
Oh, yeah, I did. I published
But
it.
it's not take it very serious.
Well, that's the point. Because
And we even recommend you being part of the suit as an environmental activist.
I refuse because I at least have been speaking out. When that mudslide disaster took place, I was so annoyed because I had been warning. I was at State House 2017, and I went out. I went to the Environmental Protection Agency. I did my research. The Environmental Protection Agency told me that 17 areas in Freetown have been designated disaster-prone areas. That means that disaster that happened in 2017, it could happen any day, every day going forward. We are sitting on an environmental ticking time bomb. I wrote that, and my article which I wrote is that the U.S. Embassy, which was the first to build above, not the first, the build above the Green Line, and that attracted local people to develop around the U.S. Embassy. I said they should be sued. They and the governing elite should be sued for the mudslide disaster. I wrote that when I was in State House. The problem is you guys in the media. It's not one time I write, one time I come on radio, then that resonates.
No, definitely. I want to assure you.
We'll make that commitment.
Because
as it stands,
is there a lawyer out there? I wrote an article about a couple of years ago that I need to sue CNN. In the Africa program, CNN came out and extolled afforestation by a company called Myro. He said, when you cut the forest down, then you can replant it. That is in a tropical rainforest country. That is complete nonsense.
We are running off now because we don't have time,
Yeah, I wish we had. We can't finish the climate change
Please,
discussion.
this is not a joking matter.
A very
It is implicit mass murder. Yeah. It is ongoing now, and we must fight the West. Look, there's no alternative.
Mr. Osborne, in a 30 seconds, what solution are you going to prefer, as a nation, moving forward? And like what the vice chairman said, we're not fighting for our generation, even us as well. We're fighting for the generation yet unborn, for them not to face such issues, on climate change as we are now, because imagine these days we're still experiencing heavy rains. In an October month, every day we're expecting rains. It's totally climate change, and we don't know the coming years. What are we going to see, as a country as well?
Every 2-year-old child, every 90-year-old grandmother should make manure. Our soils have been destroyed. In every home in Freetown, Bo, Kenema, people should grow trees and vegetables. That's the first thing we can do locally. Then we should stop this APC versus SFPP collective madness. Climate change is implicitly the Western people, India and China, fighting war against us. We should unite to fight against them. And we should unite as a people on climate change and environmental degradation. That must be done. And do your body on a big First Lady. I came here, I did go to Ram 30 days, and I do 90 days. Do ya?
So you have the opportunity to appeal to the First Lady now.
She has not taken any action.
And that's the camera. Do the appeal now to her again.
Dear First Lady, you are now chairperson or president of the Association of First Ladies and Development of Africa. It's a very vital time for you to champion climate change issue in all of Africa. I work in Liberia, that's why I started environmentalism, and in Nigeria. It's not a Sierra Leonean problem. It's almost as if what the white extremists, racist supremacists are saying, that we are subhuman. Climate change is happening. All the data shows that we are to be worse hit. Now, in Mozambique, in the Horn of Africa, in Kenya, Ethiopia, people are suffering drought. And what are we doing? We go there and talk softly. We need resources, millions of dollars. Some of that money the president is using to fly all over the place can be used to package information in imaginative way.
And I wish
this is
time,
war.
COP30 in Brazil, government will take you there to talk to
I'm not
the West.
interested.
No, but it's good. But it's good.
I'm
It's good to
interested.
go there as well, so that your voice will be heard in such a big conference. We will appeal to government to take you there, because
Government does not like me. My bond brother does not like us for because I speak the truth.
I know it will definitely like you. It's a man who encourages everybody. You know, as long as it's the fight for national interest, he will definitely call you on board. Because if he can call the former APC man Alpha Khan on board to fight against, I think it was COVID or so. Yes, to fight against COVID, then I'm sure the president will call you.
I said dramatical.
Are you ready to walk? Are you ready to walk?
There is a dramatic opposite thing between me and Alpha Khan.
No.
Alpha Khan is, there is one guy, Usman Kamara, is now in Sierra Hotel, he's used the word toughest. Alpha Khan is a flatterer, a toughest.
So are you ready to walk with President Bio if he called you?
If and when called upon?
I am ready to champion climate change for Africa, for the developing world, not for a position in government.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hansis. Quickly, as we close up with you, Victor, we've had all this. I know you'd want to take a bite or two from what Mr. Hansis have said, but as we close, it's no longer just an environmental issue. It's also human rights issues. We're losing lives, and it's a concern. Are we going to get it right after this conference?
We are hopeful. We are very hopeful as a commission that after this conference there will be some improvements, some gains will be made. We only hope that governments will take it very seriously, and those who have been invited, we attend the program. Those who have to go and make statements and be part of the panel discussions, they will attend. We are encouraging them to be there, because this is a national service. We have to make sure that we are engrossed into it. We are serious about it. Climate change is real, and we don't want to bequeath a nation living with impact of climate change to our children who, would not or have not contributed anything, to this current state. Mr. Hatsis, as a brother, can we just move away a bit from being that imaginative approach and be much more innovative and do things that are practical enough to be able to show that yes, we are serious about the business, we are serious about fighting the impact of climate change, and we are serious about really making sure that we save our unborn generation. Let government take it very serious to make sure that those settlements where people have gone to stay, because of housing problems, they must be able to create alternative settlements. We can have a kind of small smart city maybe around Mamama or some place that is really level, and then where the topography is level, and then get people from the mountainous areas, from the slums, where we know that when there is heavy downpour, normally they will lose their homes, they will lose their everything. Sometimes we even lose lives. So that once we have such a place where people now go, and then, government will be in charge of making sure that houses are better constructed, the planning itself is top notch, then that is the beginning of making sure that environmental degradation and the impact of climate change that brings, will be minimized. And then also we have said that let us pick the low-hanging fruits. Those things that we can do within our own reach, let us do them. Let us have laws that are really human rights friendly in terms of fighting against climate change. Let us have collaboration, between and amongst institutions. Let us also make sure that we fight for women and girls, because they are, mostly affected by the impact of climate change. And let us make sure that there are alternative livelihood mechanisms that we can provide for people who are engaged in, in the human activities that actually exacerbate the impact of climate change. Mm-hmm. So we can do all of these things without having to look at what America is doing or China is doing. These things are within us. They are doable. We can do them if we commit ourselves to do it. So that is our own appeal to government, and that is what I'm inviting my brother, my elder brother, who has been in this game for forever, to make sure that let us commit ourselves to pick the low-hanging fruit and address climate change head-on. Climate justice is very important. If we are relocating people, there is a company coming here to do mining activity, and then they want to relocate people. You must make sure that when you relocate them, you take them to places that is habitable, that is fit for purpose, and not just abandon them. Provide for them the necessary things that they need to be able to live their lives, because they have been where they are for a very long time. Living on those farming activities, living on those activities that actually bring them food on their table. If you are now taking them from their comfort zone to some other places, you must make that place very comfortable for them, so that they can stay there and bring up their families, in a better way. So all of these are the human rights-based approach that we believe, if implemented into the fight against climate change, then everybody will be okay.
Right. Thank you very much. I'm Victor Idris Alansana, the Vice Chairman of the Human Rights Commission of Sierra Leone, and also to you, Oswald Hansels, environmental and climate activist. They've been our guests in our first session this